Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup, Michael. Thank you very much, Michael, and thanks to all of you. I have to begin by apologizing for my late arrival. I jumped into my Uber and I asked him to drive at speeds not seen in generations. He immediately hit the brakes. I want to say it's a great honor to be in a room packed full of such patriotic, common-sense Canadians, people who are here to restore the promise of our country, to make Canada strong and free, and to make it a country once again where anyone from anywhere can achieve anything, where hard work gets you a great life and a start that leads you to whatever destination you seek. Thank you. We want this to be a country where young people are bursting with optimism to launch a career, start a family, with a house they own, a fridge full of food, a yard full of playing kids on a safe street, and a beautiful flag hanging off their front porch, honoring a country that guards its borders, stands on its feet, honors its history, and puts the common people first. That's what it means to be strong and free. And you know something, with the bounty that we have, with which God has endowed us, those goals should not only be doable, they should be, frankly, easy. We should be the richest, most affordable and autonomous country anywhere on earth. Think about it. We have more resources per capita than any nation that has perhaps ever existed in the history of the world. We have the longest oceanic coastline. We have half the shipping distances to both Asia and Europe compared to the rest of the Americas. We have the third most uranium, the third most oil. We're ranked 6th for natural gas. We have the most potash for fertilizer. We have the 5th most land to live on per capita of any nation on earth. In fact, it should be laughably cheap to buy a house with a yard, to heat that house and to drive your car off its front lot. Food prices should be so affordable that cost should not even be an afterthought when our people go to grocery stores, given the amount of farmland on which we have to grow food. But after 11 years of Liberal government, people can no longer afford even the most basic things they need to be happy. Family formation and birth rates are falling because young people cannot afford homes in which to raise kids. Stats Canada literally reported today that almost exactly double the number of young people are living with their parents, as was the case when the boomers were young. There's a 100% increase in the last 7 years in food bank use as government taxes and inflationary spending drive up the cost of groceries. Youth unemployment outside of COVID is at its worst level since the Great Global Recession, and the Liberals have used fear, illusions, and never-ending crises in order to seize and expand undemocratic power. And all of that begs the question of where we go from here. Where do things stand right now? Well, let's start with the good news. We have won every single debate on every single public policy issue in the last decade. On inflation, carbon taxes, housing, drugs, crime, resource development, we've been proven right. On all of those issues where Liberals demonized us and acted and spoke in exactly the opposite direction, they have been proven wrong, including Mr. Carney, who, by the way, has supported all of the wrong-headed policies of the last decade. Now, we have won these debates so thoroughly that Liberals have stopped debating us altogether and started plagiarizing. The problem with plagiarism is that it starts and ends with words. They had to hide what they believed and who they really were and what they wanted to do because they knew they could not win the debate. And Mr. Carney had to promise that he would reverse everything he had written in his book. Remember, he called this book Values. He said, "These are my values," he wrote in this big book. And then a few years later, he said, "Well, if you don't like my values, I've got other ones." It really makes you question whether he ever believed it in the first place or whether he still does and he's hiding them. But I'd love to say that Imitation is the highest form of flattery, but imitation without action is an illusion. They're not actually implementing what they promised or the policies that they stole, and the results speak for themselves. Canada's ranking on the Global Happiness Index has gone from 5th just 10 years ago to 18th last year, now to 25th in the world. Our young people now rank the 71st happiest, behind the US, the UK, and Australia, of course, but also behind Kazakhstan, Vietnam, and Moldova. Kazakhstani youth are happier than Canadian youth. Something bad is happening out there, and it's getting worse. And we can take the tranquilizing drug of blaming world events for the appalling conditions, but that painkiller only masks that the injuries are self-inflicted. All the other countries of the world have faced the same global problems of COVID, of tariffs, of wars in Ukraine and Iran. Yet here under Mark Carney, Canada has the highest household debt in the G7, the worst and most unaffordable housing market in the G7, the lowest investment per worker in the G7, the second highest unemployment in the G7, a net outflow of $1 trillion of investment in the last decade alone, according to RBC. Twice as much investment has left Canada as returned under the Liberals, according to RBC. And we have twice as many Canadians opening businesses abroad as they do at home. More opening businesses in the United States, more Canadians opening businesses in the United States than here at home. That's not elbows up, that's elbows out. Now, it is a comforting illusion to say that this crumbling economy is only the result of past Liberal failures, and that surely the party has learned its lesson, that Mark Carney promised in the last election he would backtrack on all these Liberal problems. But what really has changed? Really? Strip away the adjustments for style and image, and ignore speeches and promises. What is different a year later? A neutral and objective read of all the policies actually on the books for the Government of Canada will show that nothing has changed. In fact, deficits are higher, spending is higher, taxes are about the same, and all the laws passed by Trudeau to slow down resource development and free criminals onto our streets, all of them are still in place. Not one word, not one comma, not one period has been changed. Those are the facts. Everything else is an illusion. And speaking of illusions, let's go through them. The illusion was that Mr. Carney would spend less and invest more. Instead, a year later, government spending is up by 4.5%, spending on bureaucracy up 7%, spending on day-to-day operations up 9%. Spending on capital investments is actually down. That's the only part that's dropped. Now, that spending is on top of the already insane levels that Trudeau left behind. Carney has doubled Trudeau's deficit, and outside of COVID, he has the biggest deficit in Canadian history and the highest spending as a share of GDP since 1996. He has not eliminated the carbon tax. He's given it a new name, the Clean Fuel Standard, all while forcing our industry to pay the only industrial carbon tax of any oil-producing country, a tax that Enbridge and Cenovus both say will make it impossible to produce enough oil to ever go in a future Pacific pipeline. The illusion was that he was going to build faster than anybody than we had seen in generations. Yet he has not removed a single Trudeau-era anti-development law. He did not pass a single, he did pass a new law that allows him to go around the old laws, but he's not used that new law to approve a single solitary project. And speaking of the illusion of the Pacific pipeline, it still has no route, no permit, no builder, no investor, no start point, no end point, no starting date, no end date. And Mr. Carney was asked if he even supports building a pipeline to the Pacific, which is, by the way, the only route that will get us around the United States to diversify our market. A pipeline, by the way, that would allow us to export $30 billion of our crude overseas, which would mean that more value would go through that pipe than we sell to China every single year. And he was asked if he supported. His answer was like something out of Dr. Seuss. He said, so all of that lines up to, it's more likely than not which means more probable than possible, but none of that is to say certain. Still a lot of work to be done. Anybody want some green eggs and ham? Now, the illusion, of course, was that he was going to double home building, and here we are with his own housing agency saying that home building will drop by 18%. Then there's the China illusion. When he said that Beijing, a year ago, he said that Beijing was the single biggest threat to Canada. And then about 3 months ago, he signed on to what he called a strategic partnership for a new world order with the dictatorship in Beijing. And of course, there's the illusion of the last election where he said he needed to call an immediate snap election so that he had a mandate to conclude a deal with Trump and end the tariffs. And here we are. He hasn't sat down at the negotiating table for 5 months while the Mexicans are there eating our diplomatic and economic lunch. He is sitting on the sidelines and our people are sitting without jobs. On crime, the illusion is that he's announced changes but has not changed a single word in the criminal code. But he is going ahead with the largest confiscation of private property by pursuing lawful and law-abiding firearms owners instead of going after the real criminals. And then there's the censorship agenda. Now remember, the illusion was that Mark Carney was not as woke as Justin Trudeau, and certainly he is not quite as nauseating, but in reality, reality is that he has appointed a minister of heritage who said that clergy should be charged for quoting politically incorrect sections of the Bible, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, and Romans, and then they passed a law C9 that would allow such charges to be laid. The illusion was that he would be more moderate, maybe even a little bit conservative, but the reality is that he's not changed the Trudeau agenda, he has accelerated it. By all objective measures, the government is bigger and more costly and controlling than under Trudeau. The deficit is double, the bureaucracy has more tentacles that reach further into our lives than ever before. Nothing has changed. It is more cost, more debt, more immigration chaos, more of the same. Mark Carney is just another Liberal. Rien n'a changé. Plus de coûts, plus de dettes, plus de chaos en immigration, plus de criminalité, plus de la même chose. M. Carney est juste un autre libéral. On a vu que M. Carney il avait tort sur tous les enjeux depuis une décennie. Mr. Carney has been wrong about every single economic issue of the last decade. He was wrong on carbon taxes, wrong on inflation, wrong on money printing, wrong with his anti-oil agenda and the alliance he founded to defund our oil sector. Now, why is he so wrong? We keep hearing that he's so smart. Why is he so wrong? The answer is that he believes in the same top-down ivory tower economics that concentrates wealth and power with a small group of political authorities that make insiders rich and everyone else poor. The theory is that a small group of credentialed central planners can spend your money, run your business, take from workers to give to multinationals, and decide who gets what. And not surprisingly, when a small club decides who gets what, that club agrees that they should get more and everyone else should be left with less. It's the same Liberal approach of the last decade. And consider the paradox, where they block resource projects, then subsidize resource projects, block home building, then subsidize home building, block overall business investment with high taxes, and then subsidize that same investment. It's like President Reagan said, when a Liberal sees something that moves, he taxes it. If it keeps moving, he regulates it. When it stops moving, he subsidizes it. But why not just get out of the way and let things move? And the answer is that there would be no role then for the Liberal at the top. If people could just build things themselves, they would not need to bow at the altar of Caesar. The well-lobbied-for class of insiders has managed to fill their pockets with tens of billions of dollars for subsidies for projects that go over budget, over schedule, and often belly up. Government blocks competitors in order to favor political insiders. It redirects resources from money-making businesses and their projects that pay for themselves to money-losing projects paid by taxpayers. Ultimately, we have to decide what a kind of economy we want, my friends. In fact, what kind of country we want. Do we want an economy based on carve-outs, handouts, and bailouts, or an economy based on hard work, merit, and competition? Do we want businesses to make money by having the best lobbyist or by having the best product? By pleasing customers or pleasing politicians? Do we want state-controlled crony capitalism, or do we want free enterprise capitalism? Do we want our businesses to compete for workers with better wages and customers with better products, or do we want them to compete for political favoritism? Ultimately, my friends, this is the choice for the country, but here's the challenge for all of us. The form of state-controlled crony capitalism, the top-down economics of the Liberals, is very politically powerful. And that is because it creates enormous and very powerful special interest groups that will entrench the status quo. If you think of it this way, the great James Buchanan, a Nobel Prize-winning economist, he described this as public choice theory. He said, for example, if you had the government take $1 from every Canadian, it's $41 million, and give it to a special interest group. Well, that interest group would fight tooth and nail to keep that benefit. But the 41 million Canadians would be too busy working, paying their taxes, and raising their families to fight to get their dollar back. Now, this happens thousands of times over and over again, and it becomes many dollars for every single family. Here's the problem. It also creates a multi-billion-dollar ecosystem of interests, powerful interests, that fight to stay in power and to stop anyone who threatens that power. And that is ultimately what we have today. The club of liberal elites who dominate this town and every microphone in it. They dominate the political panels and talk shows. They control the airwaves. They spend millions of dollars on attack ads that are unregulated outside of an election period in order to stay in power. All of this to enhance their privilege. And that is exactly why they want to stop and change me. They do not want anything to change in the country. They say that we should just join the club, accept the status quo, blend in. But that would mean leaving behind the 8.3 million Canadians, the record-smashing 8.3 million Canadians who voted for us. They voted for us to fight for them. And some people have accused me of being a fighter. But that's because some things are actually worth fighting for. We need to fight for these millions of people who don't have political influence and power, who cannot hire a lobbyist, who don't make the evening news. We are the voice for the voiceless. In opposition, therefore, we have a job to do. We have to rise every day and fight for the ideas, the people, and the country we believe in. We will do this to make life better for those people. We will win the debates in the hopes that we can force the government to do the right thing, as in some rare instances we've been able to do. But we have to remember what and who we are fighting for. We're fighting to restore the promise of our country for every single person. We want to fight for zero taxes on all fuel, because we understand not just that it's good politics to lower gas prices, but when you lower the price of fuel, you lower poverty levels. That our highways and our railways are the veins of our economy, but affordable energy is its lifeblood. That includes getting rid of the industrial carbon tax. We must be unabashed defenders of oil and gas. Everywhere on earth where fossil fuel use has risen, life expectancies and living standards have grown. More is better for Canada and for the world, and we will keep fighting for it. We must fight to give Canada the fastest permits anywhere on earth. To build a home, to build an extension on your house, or to build a pipeline. This should be the fastest place to get busy. We should fight for a permanent end to all taxes, including excess development fees on homes, so that our young people can afford a place to live. We should get rid of taxes on reinvestment in Canada to bring back the $1 trillion that our economy has lost overseas. We want to fight for a Canada that is a free market, to unleash the genius and the work ethic of the common people, to build affordable, abundant lives. Nous voulons nous battre pour un libre marché qui est abordable et autonome avec plein d'opportunités pour tous nos citoyens. We need to fight for affordable food, affordable homes, and affordable living for all of our people. We must fight for the family, which is the building block of any healthy civilization and the best social safety net we have. We must make it possible for our young people to get married and have kids again. We must fight for tariff-free trade by building up our leverage, negotiating a hard bargain, and opposing the President's tariffs, but also we must reject the idea of a permanent rupture with our biggest customer, which buys 2/3 of our goods in favor of a strategic partnership for a new world order with Beijing. That is the wrong approach, and we will not pursue it. We must fight for a country where anyone from anywhere can achieve anything, where hard work gives you a great life, where the common people are masters and the government and its leaders are servants, where immigration serves our national interests, where we fight for our culture and our history. We sing our songs, tell our stories, and wave our flag. Some people believe that we should stop fighting. Join the club. Be content with the way things are. That certainly would be easier, my friends. But easy street leads to a dead end, and the hardest roads lead to the best destinations. Our destination is a country, the country that we knew and still love, a country where the people are back in charge of their lives, because this country and its people are worth fighting for. I keep fighting, and I hope you will too. Merci beaucoup.